Oh, fuck me. I'm dumb. Not paying attention. You have to reset. You have to skip there. I forgot. You can skip the second half of that cutscene, and I just kept mashing. Okay. Seriously, like Paul knows. Paul's doing it in the right order right now. Paul's got his shit together. I'm happy for Paul. But if you're not doing it like that, which like 75% of people having kids aren't, it's like, dude, my brother, believe me, my brother got it together super quick. I'm hella proud of my brother. Um, in terms of like pretty much right when he found out he was having a kid, he was like, "Okay, fuck this shit. I'm not working at fucking Main Street Pub anymore. That's for sure." Um, you know, which is more than I could say for my sister's boyfriend. Um, yeah, that's what happens. Everybody finds out because of, just information spreads like wildfire. Um, yeah, now I'm just fucking up my. Now I'm just flustered, so I'm fucking this up. But it's just the first cutscene, so what am I doing? But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about it. It's just that I don't think anybody should be, and I'm definitely not one of those like voluntary human extinction people where they're like, oh, don't reproduce because we should all just die. I'm not that guy, dude. That's all it is to me. I'm serious. You know, yeah, I'm going to school. Yeah, like I have interests about, just truth and then the nature of reality, right? And they're, you know, in a lot of cases, the only place that you can study those things is in school. But you better never think that school has the answers to those questions. School is just where you can be funded to ask them. The scary thing is when you have to be careful what kind of answers you give because, some very powerful or very rich people don't like the answer that you gave, or they have a specific. They have a horse in the race of, what the answer is because it because their master plan hinges on the truth or falsity of that answer, and they have to have people thinking this and not that. And that's not just conspiracies. That's like a ton of things. That's like the nature of reality. It's like, how does language work? What's the moon? Have we been there? Um, all these kinds of things. Um, I literally read an article recently. This was too funny. Where it was a space.com article, which I didn't even know that there was a space.com. And in it it was like 40th anniversary of the moon landing, right? So it's like 2009. Um, and in it the main question of the article is like, 40 years later, how come we haven't been back to the moon? And and you know what's it gonna take to get back there, basically, right? Interesting question, right? Even if you think that we've been to the moon. Um, and they literally interview a NASA guy, and they're like, so what's the what's it gonna take to do another moon mission? Blah blah blah, right? And he's like, well, you know, basically, um, you know, to do a man mission, you need to be able to ship a heavy payload, obviously, because you need to not only get the men there, but all their supplies and all their rations and things like that, right? Um, and he says, like, pretty much verbatim, that technology was retired, does not exist anymore. And he says does not exist anymore, right? And they go on to say, well, the Saturn V rockets that were used to propel, the astronauts to our first moon landing, they were retired after the Apollo missions. Um, and the current rockets that we have now are not strong enough to basically lift that kind of weight and actually propel us to the moon. So we're gonna need to figure out how to do that. And you're reading this and you're like, well, wait a second. Like, you mean it just doesn't exist? Like, don't you at least have it written down? Like the design for the rockets? Like, hello? Like, are you kidding? And it's just they just like put it down there, just at the bottom of the article, like does not exist anymore. And you're supposed to think that that's reasonable or possible. And they don't even say, oh, we misplaced the blueprints. They don't say, you know, um, we don't have we ran out of resources for that particular, they don't say anything like that. They don't have they don't have any explanation at all. They just say, does not exist anymore. Yeah, I agree. Net neutrality is a big issue, but, anyway, so I don't know. I always get to the conspiracies, but my point is, I don't give a shit at this point because nobody else cares. No, I'm not a flat earther. See, that's very funny that you would say that, but I encourage everybody to look into the moon landing. I encourage everybody, and even read, like I said, even read the popular side, because that wasn't a fringe publication. That was space.com. It's like a popular science, astronomy type of a um, online blog type of thing. So obviously they weren't being critical of the reality or non-reality of the 1969 moon landing, as well as the subsequent moon landings from allegedly 1969 to 1972. So, but that's just, I would call it an Easter egg. They've just kind of hidden in this article, and it's right there. It's in the open. We do not have the technology to go to the moon, and we never did. Because if we don't have it now, then how could we have had it in the 1960s? That's the only implication from that, right? But like I said, I don't give a shit because nobody else does. Nobody is beating on NASA's door and saying, "Hey, bitches, tell us what are you really spending our fucking tax dollars on? Because this is fucked up. You definitely didn't do what you said you did." You know, that would be the implication. Since my sisters said that it's not my job to take care of them, or put them to shower, or make them do homework, okay, then I'm not helping them. What, your sisters kind of got mad at you or something, or? I feel you. I get that. I have a younger brother. I always try and help him with school. He always fucks it up anyway. I always try and say, hey man, college is really easy if you just You know, do what they tell you for a little bit, and you'll get out of there, I promise. And he just fucks it up anyway. So you know, um, sad stuff. But oh my god, this is the wrong day. But yeah, I'm not a flat earther. But it's interesting that you would mention flat eartherism, just because. Um, how do I put this? It's like the moon landing is a really good example because it's something that nobody could actually test with their senses. You know, nobody knows intuitively. You know, you can watch. You know, you can look at the JFK assassination, and I use that one because that one's probably not that controversial. That there's something fishy about the JFK assassination, right? You know, even if you don't know what happened, you don't care. You're just like, okay, really, like this one guy killed him, and you know there was all this political issues around the situation, and you know you're telling me that this one guy killed, and it wasn't the FBI. You're telling me that like they had nothing to do with it at all, and okay, okay, interesting, okay. Um, you know, you have some, I feel like person to person intuition that you know that's a bit fishy or it's suspect. Um, Whereas with something like the moon landing, you have absolutely no intuition at all. You've never been to the moon. You're never gonna be to the moon. And um, well, that's too bad, Skid. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes family acts like that. They just get a little bit like I get that like that with my family. Like I was just saying earlier, you know, they call me all the fucking time, and I just get frustrated, and you know, I don't think it's necessarily intended as, you know, really, you know, disrespectful, but I know people can get just a little bit. I know that my brother is just calling me because he cares about me. I haven't been feeling very well lately, so he was just saying what's up, you know, while he had time, and you know that's kind of, you know, it's kind of my fault that I have a hobby like this where I fucking play the same video game over and over for upwards of 6 hours a day. But anyway, you know, regarding, I think tomorrow's Monday, that'll be good. Regarding, you know, a flat Earth, it's just interesting. Yeah, yeah, they always are. My family's always like that with me though, but that's because you know, um, I'm the kind of person who does this, which is literally isolate myself in a room for, you know, several hours at a time playing the same video game over and over. But I do it on purpose. And I'm doing it like I get a level of enjoyment out of it, you know. Um, I'm not just trying to, yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, I'm not just trying to isolate myself. I have speedrun for that reason before, but I'm not doing that now. So, which is good. You know, I feel a lot better than I have in the past. But no, it's interesting about the flat Earth just because you have no intuition about the shape of the Earth either, but you have to take people's word for it. Now, I for one am willing to take that word because it is based on a lot of evidence. But you know, you might suspect that there are a lot of claims that don't actually stand up to, you know, inspection of evidence that are touted as, oh, yep, that's just, you know, that's just how it is. This is the truth. And those are the kinds of things you have to be super wary of. Just very, very wary of. Yeah, that's how I feel too. I think that I could end up in a relationship again someday. It would be probably not terrible, but it'll be a while from now. Do we have see and then that okay, then that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's not just like did we land on the moon in the 60s. It's you know, if they've lied to us about something like that and the lie has become basically a media circus for the last 50 years. Not a media circus, but it's more of like a pop culture circus. You know, they've made countless film adaptations for this. You know, likely you know, just to reinforce the fact that we've been somewhere that we haven't been. But anyway, as far as the moon or as far as Mars, I have no fucking idea. That's what's scary about it. You know, believe me, I'm a fucking Trekkie. I'm a long time Trekkie, super sci-fi guy. Love this shit. You know, with space exploration, that's like top of my list. Most important things I want my tax dollars to go to. You know, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? So I am not like Mr. Fuck NASA, but once I found out that the moon landing is retardedly suspect, I'm like, okay. Rovers on Mars? You know, you'd have to ask that question then. You'd go, okay. You don't say, I know for certain that we don't have rovers on Mars. You just, you know, you can't make a claim like that. You're not making a claim. You're saying, I don't know if I can fully, in good conscience, believe the claim. Also, yeah, exactly, and that's a very, very good point. I'm sorry, I just saw that other comment, Gamero. It is, you know, we are very close to a time where you don't fucking know what you're seeing. You have no way to verify that what you're seeing is actually real video footage. It's like you said. You know, it will get to a point where you can fucking represent human beings, and you won't think, this looks like a little bit like Toy Story, you know? No, it's gonna literally be, oh yeah, just here we go. We just put a voice track to this, and you know, it's just, you know, that's kind of funny, Skid. I mean, family cares about each other, so I try to be respectful to my brother when he calls me like that. I don't say, what the fuck are you calling me for, man? You just killed the run. You know what I'm saying? Because then it's like, I'm just like, hey, dude, what's up? How you doing? Oh, you must be bored. Okay, I'm good. Thanks for calling. Anyway, so. Computer programming is very valuable, Camaro. Well, you and I should both learn computer programming. That's something that I'm want to learn as well. I have a little bit of experience already, but it is extremely useful. Yeah. I mean, you need to be able to understand how computers work because the more you know, the more you can tell whether you're potentially being manipulated, I guess is what I would say. So I believe this is Thursday. Anyway, so, but yeah, I got like in a pseudo argument with Stiff on Twitter. Never gonna do that again, because Stiff showed that he is just he doesn't he literally just listens to everything that everybody else tells him. He doesn't have thoughts of his own. He just, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna, he doesn't care about Melee. He just thinks it's funny or something, likes to get his 15 minutes of fame when he's commentating, whatever. Um, doesn't care about learning anything more about the game so he can, I don't know, actually commentate effectively or anything, whatever. If you're gonna commentate that much, it's like whatever. But, you know, but about the moon, he's just total denial. But that's how people are. And I mean, he studied physics, so you would think, oh, that should actually make him all the more able to, tell it's bullshit. But no, that's government fucking science that they're teaching him. So it's not like, I'm not saying the laws of physics don't follow a pattern. Obviously, we know gravity and this is the rate that objects fall. We know how to calculate different things so that we can actually fly planes and do these things. Technology obviously follows the laws of physics, quantum physics, all these things. I understand that, but you know there should be Friday. Alright, I'm gonna definitely have to not kill this run. Fuck. Yeah, I'm losing a ton of time. Oh no, I'm not losing that much time. Because what's it today? Like I said, I think it's Friday. This thing is when I call to doctor appointment for weeks. That's funny. I don't know what you mean by passive. If you mean he doesn't know how to form his own thoughts, then that's not smart. That's not smart. Well, it depends what you mean by smarts, I guess, but that's fine. I'm not gonna make this bash AJ day because I really don't care. In fact, somebody like AJ, he's like one of the most ineffectual threats that you could conceive of to something like the powers that be. In fact, he's perfect. He's like, oh, put AJ on our fucking payroll right now. Oh, shit, dude, we need AJ on our side. Bernie's like, fuck yeah, AJ, you really helped me with that one. Fuck. Like, come on. But anyway, it's just, yeah, I suppose he does have traditional smarts. Yeah, you can totally do math. That's good. Math is fucking helpful. You gotta know how to do math. I'm with that, but Saturday, right? Yep. What do you mean? I mean, you don't see yourself sleeping, but every time I go to the this is Saturday. Every time I go to the inside the house, I'm sleeping till the next day. Sunday. That's not nighttime. It's you start at 6 a.m., so it's a little bit dark. It's possible that the screen looks a lot darker than it actually is, because I think my brightness is for this is a lot lower. Like the brightness that this seems to output to my streaming equipment seems a lot lower than my GameCube. So I might need to monkey with those settings, but yeah, I mean, it's 6 a.m. every day, so. But anyway, so um, but yeah, so I mean, speaking of flat Earth though, that's the other scary thing is you just go, okay, well, once you've been through the number of these conspiracies, you don't consider yourself a flat earther just because you believe some of these other things, or just because you realize you've been lied to about some of these other things. Because, like I said, without sort of an appropriate enough background to actually understand the math or some of the physics that tells us certain things must be so, you at least, if you're a true skeptic, you at least have to have the thought in your head, well, wait a second, how do I know? And the answer is you don't. So, but I mean, that just speaks to the nature of reality and what reality really is. And there are a lot of things besides, the shape of the earth that, you say you know, but you don't really know. Um, it doesn't mean that you know that it's flat. It just means that you know that you don't necessarily know, based on at least your level of expertise, that the story you've been told is the physical, objective, immutable truth. Linguistics is cognitive neuroscience. Well, I take that back. Linguistics is trying to become more of a cognitive neuroscience all the time, but this is a very the reason why I feel like I'm able to make these types of leaps, which I think they're good leaps to make, is because of linguistics and the fact that, to a human being, one of the realest things to them is their language. And like, I don't know if I want to say their language, but just like, you think in words to a large degree, or you feel like you do, right? So to suggest that, you know, so at first, you kind of linguistic science kind of goes through the motions of testing a lot of these things and creating theories on the assumption that a lot of these things are real and they actually exist in the brain, symbols and categories and all these things, right? But then eventually, once you've been studying it long enough and you see some of these results, you go, well, wait a second, but like, the the evidence seems to suggest that, at the very least, this might not be real. It feels really real because, this is how we organize our thoughts and stuff. Especially learning to understand what is bullshit and what might have value. That's true. I mean, you definitely spend a lot of time doing that, but I mean things like, is puh real in the mind? Do I have like a box in my head that has puh, and then I have a box in my mind that says oh or ah, and I have another box in my mind that says tuh, and then I put those three boxes together and it makes pop. Is that really how I form it, or does it just kind of feel like that? So it looks like I lost a ton of time. I didn't really. I think in something ambiguous which I recognize to be language but isn't actually any known language. I'm not sure what you mean. Wait, what skit? You got like an adapter so that you can use the earphones? Is that what you said? I always forget to skip that. That's good. Why did I talk to her twice? No. I didn't mean to. It's okay. Oh yeah, good point. Good point. Bluetooth. iPhone X, baby. I mean, yeah, being bilingual or multilingual can definitely, um, I think maybe draw these things a little bit clearer, or at least show you a little bit more clearly that what you're dealing with isn't real the way that you think of real. You know, I have a map in my head for this game. Okay, that's kind of silly, I feel like, but that's okay. I can still manage that. Um, you know, like I have a map in my head for this game somewhere. I don't know where, but I have a memory of, you know, a relatively detailed memory, at least enough to let me play this game um, somewhat efficiently. That I know where the each of these loading zones leads, and you know where the maybe what the menus look like, um, what path to take to get to to get to certain areas, and but I mean you wouldn't call this game real in the sense that what's happening in the game is not of this plane, if you want to put it that way. Um, yeah, I'm probably down to make it. I think I can make it. It just, it's really gonna depend on this job with my brother. Um, he's got like a few different ones going right now, and in terms of somebody might bite on the quote, and so because that's the main thing that you run into with these kinds of this kind of work is you give somebody a quote, but then they might have 3 other people quote it. So, but most of the time, once they've decided on you, they call you and they're like, okay, we want you to do it now. All right, can you come? And then it's like, okay, well, yeah, I didn't know I was gonna be doing this today, but my brother called me and said, hey, they called us back and we're doing this. So I can talk to him about it though, see what he says. All right, so thankfully I'm able to pretty much zone during that whole first section. During this whole first section, it's almost over, and I swear to fucking God I'm finishing this run. But if my corn gets killed again, then I'm just gonna call it, because this is... But yeah, so as far as the Earth, it's like, I don't know the shape of it. I just know that a bunch of people who told me the shape of it lied about other things. So it's like, fuck, like shit. I really want to go to Mars. But I'm not holding my breath over things like that anymore. I'm glad that I never really pursued that, because as a kid I was like, oh, I want to be a astronaut, or I want to go to, I want to be Captain Janeway. But I'm really glad that because what's gonna happen is rather than going any of these places, rather than exploring the cosmos, what we're gonna end up doing is um, exploring the human mind. We will go inside rather than outside. Um, and in a lot of ways, the universe that's inside the human mind is even more vast. Which, I can't really hate on that. I think that's a very lofty and worthwhile goal. I just think that if and when technology is on the forefront of that investigation, there will be a new kind of war on your mind, as if there isn't already. A new kind of war where you don't even know that you're under attack, and it's already kind of like that. People come into the world, they're born into the world not knowing beforehand that what they're watching on TV is actually warfare. It's an attack aimed at them, to kind of head them off before they could conceive of something that would throw off the balance of power. And video games are like this to an extent too, but that's pretty much the main reason why I've always liked video games better than TV, is because it's really only to an extent. I mean, the scariest video games to me are like Call of Duty and all these first person shooters. Even Halo honestly got a little bit too over the top with its militarism. And it was all about, the United Space Federation and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, you mean the United States Marines in space? Like that's all it is. You're literally you're even you have Marines with you. That's like what all the character like the little fucking shitty dudes are. Your little pissant allies. So it's strange. But yeah, that's why I don't fuck with first person shooters. And I never really have too much. I mean, I liked Battlefield 2 when it came out, just because I was 14 and FPSs. It was fun to get pissed off at team killers. Goddamn trolls. But oh no, I like Halo a lot. I like Halo. I like the original Halo trilogy. I'm talking about. I mean, Halo got a little bit excessive with the militarism, and I think that primarily started to happen because before that it was all about this fucking sci-fi story. You're like, oh, this ancient fucking civilization and blah blah, the AI and this and that. It's like, dude, it's fucking crazy. Like, we gotta solve the alien code, and now it's just like, okay, Halo 6, we're just blowing a bunch of fucking aliens up. Okay, cool. The last Halo I really liked and played a lot of online was like Reach. Hey, Reach was like Reach I only liked for that was just kind of like my last Xbox Live phase, and it was like right when I started at MSU because it came out in 2010 I think. So I got a 360 and Halo Reach, and I would just play that a ton with my floor mates. As far as the plot, I really only liked. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I hope I haven't miscounted here, because if I did, then that'd be really bad, but I think I'm good. Nice, yeah. Yeah, that's right, the old days. But yeah, I think this route's also about to undergo a pretty major modification after I complete this. I just need to fucking figure out what the final cutscene triggers are. Okay, 23. It's gotta be almost summer. I'm fucking close, dude. I'm actually gonna gather today, I think. Yo, thanks for the luck, Felipe. It's kind of nice doing a daytime stream for once and actually having people in chat. Well, okay, what I was trying to say about flat earthers though, and this is what people need to take to heart, and same goes to anti-vaxxers. You have to at least appreciate the willingness to admit that you don't know the actual veracity of some very fundamental truths that you've been told. The heart of that kind of skepticism is true skepticism. The kind of skepticism that so-called skeptics don't actually have. So whether or not the evidence is borne out, which I don't know if it is, but what you also need to keep in mind is that people are immediately dispelled from such a circle of thought like flat earthism or anti-vax is a little bit more reasonable than flat earth. I feel like most people would think, if one of them is more reasonable than the other. You know, most people are dispelled from even entertaining such thoughts just by virtue of smear campaigns, right? And in some cases, I mean, and that goes for a variety of unpopular thoughts. And unpopular thoughts include things like September 11th, John F. Kennedy assassination, Gulf of Tonkin incident, moon landing, Boston Marathon bombing, these kinds of things, where if someone was actually just shown the evidence and they didn't have a bunch of media induced bias, then they would believe you right away. They go, "Oh my god, that's fake. Oh my god, like what the fuck?" You know? So, for flat earth, to me, that's like just because it's an insult to call somebody a flat earther, you know. You should be able to entertain, and this is another thing I kind of learned in linguistics. You should be able to entertain theories, and I was actually really bad at this. I was so bad at this, and in fact, while I was there in 2015, when you and I were pretty much just grinding a fuck ton of melee, I was hating my phonology class for a very specific reason, very related to this, and it's because we were learning about a theory that I thought was fucking bunk nonsense. I thought it was stupid. I thought, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, you, what? Like, I just thought, like, I can't believe anybody could even entertain this idea. But what I learned later, after, you know, failing the course because of my unwillingness to participate in work that I thought was beneath me, which is a common trend for me. What I realize is, you know, you have to be able to entertain thoughts and theories and truly entertain them, in the sense that you go, okay, assuming this is correct, what does that mean? How can I prove it wrong or right? Assuming that, you know, this is how it works. And that's very important to be able to do. And, you know, even, you know, a lot of thoughts, even all the way up to flat eartherism, are just dispelled out of hand by people who, you know, they're idiots, you know. Even a redneck could tell you, "Oh, we don't live on no flat earth." And you're like, "Okay, that's cool, but like, how do you know? Like, you don't know." You know, there's a variety of math that could probably show you, but that we don't. But you know, you don't want to just, especially in this day and age, like you were saying, because of the fact of improved CGI. You cannot just believe something just because, you know, you learned it when you were 2 years old. And in fact, that's kind of like learning some fucking, you know, ancient religion when you're 2 years old. And we look back at those people now and we go, "Oh, how the fuck did the Greeks believe that shit about the gods and the, like, what? Mount Olympus? Are you kidding me?" Because they were told when they were 2 years old. You know, it's like, but people think science isn't really a worldview. It's real. You know, so that's people's problem. You know. Yeah, but I mean, there's actually, like, I've even been to the Flat Earth, you know, the Flat Earth Organization website. It's actually not you know, it's a professional website. And when I remember looking at it going like, what the fuck? Like, these guys have some funding or something, or somebody knows HTML, but, you know, so again, I'm not saying that they're correct. I'm just saying I think a lot of people in the society could do to have the ability to entertain the thought that some of their most fundamental assumptions about reality are wrong, and that's what leads to actual discovery. You know, that's so, you know, going back to my linguistics class, I can only understand where to go from here, how to find and really investigate rigorously what could be the nature of phonological representations, if I fully understand and fully grasp the theories of the 1980s. You know, featured geometry is the one that I'm thinking of, Clement's 1986 or something like that. where he lays out feature geometry. And I remember reading and being like, "Oh my god, are you? I mean, this is elegant if you wanna write a theory in 1986, but why are we learning this now? Like, give me a fucking break." Well, you're learning it now, so you know how to disprove it if you really don't think it's true. You know that. Like seriously. Well, okay, but first of all, you got to be really careful about the scientific community. The scientific community is also on the same page that we've been to the moon when we in fact have not. So you really can't trust that shit. And that's really really important. You can't the scientific community is actually a bunch of academics that are in government funded positions at public universities. So how are you going to trust that shit? You know what I'm saying? You know. So careful about careful about scientific consensus, especially in extremely hot button political issues, because scientific issues are political issues. My name's Elliot. Elliot. Okay, yeah, it's fine that scientists aren't. I'm not sure what you mean to say by that. You're just saying modern day scientists shouldn't be able to tell that we haven't been to the moon, like, because they're not historians. I mean, it really only takes a cursory examination of the evidence. Elliot, yep. It's not that historical in the sense that it's like, oh my fucking god. All right, I'm not gonna reset, but I forgot the corn. I'm not gonna reset, but I forgot the corn. Flat Earth is a pretty long-standing debate, obviously. All right, we're okay. That's fine. That's like a time loss, but it's just good that I remembered. I don't sound like Elliot. What is that supposed to mean? What do I sound like? Adam? Oh, Sarah, chill. You did tell me? Okay. I guess I don't remember that, but... So today's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I'm honestly just gonna plant these now. Sorry, Gamero. Okay, dude. This control stick. What the fuck is that? No, not a pontata root. Okay, good. At least I threw it. No, dude. Okay, well, this is not going well. Execution, please. Concept itself is geology or astrophysics. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, but none of us could do the basic math that it takes to calculate how do you get to the moon. And if we could, I wouldn't be familiar with what technology would allow us to do that. So, I don't know. It's tough. It's definitely tough to. Dude, oh my gosh, please. Yeah, I'm trying to put it in a better way. Um, I'm not alleging a conspiracy. I'm literally saying that students believe what they're told by people who they respect. And I met a lot of graduate students, and I was in class with a lot of graduate students in linguistics who did not know that that there is nothing that says that a phoneme is real. A phoneme is a theoretical device that's used to describe synchronic and diachronic sound change. That's all it is. Sometimes it's described in phonology courses as, this building block of language present in the psyche of the somewhere in the psychological in the grammar of the speaker, but there's absolutely, in fact, there's very little experimental evidence that suggests that phonemes are real to people. There's some, but it's not all obviously in agreement, right? And so I think a lot of these scientists don't even know what scientific consensus is. I don't know, like, because I'm not in those fields, so I don't know the. I'm just saying that people, even all the way up to tenured professors, some of them that I've dealt with, that you've probably dealt with too, professors who they just believe what the theory is because that's the theory. They just believe what their advisor told them, and those are the scientists that are making the consensus that we follow. So, right, or it's animal models or things like that. Yeah. Why did I not just go? What am I doing? I forgot to give him. That's okay, because I can easily just. I can do this. I can make this. Getting kind of bad rain luck, but you know what? My corn is still alive, so we're taking it. Anyway, so again, I'm not trying to Day School has the best lyrics about education. Oh fuck. Dead Prez? I think I know Dead Prez. I don't remember. Yeah, see, and that's the funny thing is they say we don't know for certain this is how X works, but the theory assumes that that's how it works. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. Okay. So you don't know that that's how it works, but the rest of your theory assumes that that's how it works. Like, that's where you start to see sometimes, But especially in the hard sciences where, math is kind of the foundation of, if who doesn't offer a viable alternative? Some people do offer viable alternatives, and then people say, oh, you're basically a flat earther. That is kind of what I'm saying. So, but the scientific consensus says this. You know what I'm saying? It's just... It's... it's Um, yeah, it's not clear to me what. Let me also say this. As far as anti-vax, I think what you're describing right now is the media's portrayal of some radical anti-vaccination um, groups or beliefs, right? And they're gonna try and describe it as extreme as possible. 2, 3, 4. They're gonna try and describe it as extreme as possible so that you don't believe that shit, so that you get your child vaccinated. What I would tell you is, thanks. Yeah, it's me again. Pose Farmer. The run's okay. What I'm saying is, I don't know if all people who are wary of government-sponsored vaccinations believe that vaccines cause autism. Okay, that's kind of the again, you gotta kind of filter out all the most extreme statements, because it's likely that the fewest people are making the most extreme statements, and the government is saying these things, or I'm sorry, the media is saying these things. They're parroting the most extreme statements, maybe many more times than they were actually said, or what have you, right? Simply because, well, anti-vaxxers, get your vaccinations, kids. And then it's just like, oh, okay, do I think that some vaccinations could have a harmful effect? I am super not sure, but I certainly don't think it's out of the question. Okay, good. So I don't know if that makes sense, but did this guy lose his license because he was a quack or because he was threatening the status quo? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what you wanna. You want to really, really, really be cognizant of that. I mean, everyone thinks that 2017 is super hella more advanced than like, on the grand scheme of things. If there's aliens watching us develop technologies, like, currently we're basically in the same era that we were. Like, we might have just barely crossed into the next one. 1, 2, 3. Please don't die. 4. I think they might have died. Don't do it. No. Okay, thank God. Oh, I don't know what you mean. Simply not true. Seems like a pretty strong statement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop raining. Okay, good. Yeah. That's basically what I said. I said, if anything, we're barely just now crossing into the next era, and it's a bit misleading to say that we were hella more advanced than in our ways of thinking, our ways of experimentation. I think that's a bit rash. You make it sound like the scientific method was like altogether different in the 60s and 70s. And I don't know who you mean by they jumping the gun, because the media jumps the gun all the time. They immediately say, "Oh, it was terrorists. Terrorists did it." So I'm just saying, like, if you mean like the scientific community, reasonable scientific people probably still exist, and they're probably careful about the things they say and the conclusions they come to, because they know that maybe all the evidence isn't in yet. And if you listen to any scientist who's, you know, fully quoted and isn't being interviewed for a hit piece, then he's probably relatively conservative about what he's saying. Oh my God. Like, I don't know how, what the fuck, dude? It had to be that's crazy. Like, oh my God. God damn it. That's so annoying. I'm gonna have to just like, I'm moving too fast somehow, so. No shit. I literally probably got there at 7:58. But there's no on-screen clock that I can look at. I have to literally pause every time I want to check the clock, so I just YOLO'd because I assumed I killed enough time. Because I did time this, but it seems like in some of my timing I was going slower than I thought I would normally. So that's good. That means my movement is good, and I'm actually getting up there as fast as I possibly can. But that means that in the event that I need to talk to her, I need to kill, and I don't gather any. Yeah, I understand. I understand that the information available changes everything. I totally get that. Um, but yeah, in terms of how we understand our world, and in a lot of ways, things have gone. I won't say backwards. What the fuck am I doing? But because it's so easy to get information now, it's also so much easier to get bad information. Um, and it's also really easy to just have absolutely no fucking idea what's going on because you're being bombarded by information from 5 different sources, 5 different sides on any day, and on any Google search, you know. It's up to you to decide, oh, what's the right information. But I think this is Oh, I'm not saying that it's, you know, pluses and minuses. There's, you know, obviously benefits, costs and benefits to each of the aspects of the information technology society that we live in. But boom, 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 boom. Man, I'm telling you, we are currently living in the worst propaganda era that has yet existed in human history. Straight up. It has never been more um, egregious than it is now. Yeah, you can think what you want. We live in the time of the worst propaganda. Whether or not you think that it's easier than it's ever been to be able to see through it based on the other information you have available to you, it's actually not, because those same propaganda outlets are spending at least half of their time talking shit about all the other possible stories. Saying, oh, that can't be true. Conspiracy theorists say, but it's been disproven by mainstream science that... Okay, guys. Like, all right. So then what that means is that really smart people who would otherwise be able to tell have emotional arguments leveled against them. What are in effect emotional arguments saying, hey, you're a fucking moron if you believe this. You don't want to be a moron, do you? Okay, man. I'm glad you're optimistic. That's good. I'm glad you're optimistic. You seem like you've never had a conversation with anybody while you were on the conspiracy side of the debate. It sounds like you've never, ever, ever had that conversation. So, all right. Well, I'm whatever, bro. That's this is just. It's really splitting hairs. It doesn't matter whether you think we're in the worst propaganda time in history. Blah blah blah. Reagan is like 40 years ago. It's like the same thing. 1, 2. You know, it's basically, if it's post JFK, we are basically owned by the same people. Because whoever killed JFK still owns the government. 3. Whoever killed JFK was Ronald Reagan's puppeteer. So. That really depends on what you think about, you know, the veracity of our political structure and, you know, what the president does, who the president is. Whether he has the power, whether his Congress has the power, whether it's somebody else entirely. I mean, it's very simple. You just have to know that John F. Kennedy wasn't killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. That's just that's the basic. That's the bottom, at least. Okay, so what time do I get here? This is gonna be a great PB. Hi, YouTube. All right, I'm picking this up just in case. Good. Why did they kill him? Various people would suggest it was because he opposed a lot of. I should be going the other way. Policies that. You know, his handlers or whoever the fuck you want to call them, just people who, very powerful people who had great interest in the impact of his policies, whether it was his wartime policies, his economic policies, etc. That he was a problem for them, and that they would rather. And Lyndon B. Johnson, for his part, I mean, he certainly didn't follow step from JFK. No, well, yeah, I don't think that Reagan is directly connected to JFK. What I'm saying is, since the JFK lie, 1, 2, 3. Since the JFK lie is still supported by the current media that we have, as well as every subsequent administration, it means that the same people own the media that killed JFK. Because it was. I don't know how serious you want to get about this, but the assassination of JFK is a coup d'etat. You know, fundamentally. So it means that obviously the state was taken over by actors. I don't mean Hollywood actors. I mean agents or people, you know, who were certainly not elected by the American people. You know, maybe they were elected officials who were involved with it, but at the very least, they weren't. Um, they were not elected to head the federal government the way that the people elected JFK. If the people, I don't really understand the extent to which our election systems have been corrupted over the past 40, 50 years. I don't know if elections were even fair then. I can't say. But I can say that so what day is it today? It's Sunday. Piss. Oh, it's already on. Okay, good. I didn't mean to talk to her. Shit. I mean, yeah, just the idea is that subsequent eras. I don't know about the consolidation of the power. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but okay, I have to make sure I PB this, so hang on. My point being that, you know, I don't see why JFK would have faked his own death, first of all. So it's not like JFK was behind the cover-up of his assassination, right? So given that the assassination was obviously covered up, so this is Monday. This is my second sleep. $24. Are you kidding me? I miscounted my... Wow, I miscounted bad. Alright, I fucked this run up bad. Because I'm talking about conspiracy theories. Fucking shit, dude. Whatever, I'm in perfectly fine shape. That was basically... Now I don't remember what day it is. No. Okay. Hang on. I'm PBing this fucking run, okay? Like... Oh, I forgot you have to go to sleep after this. So dumb. This would be a lot... Yeah, you could do this a lot better if you didn't have to do this. Okay, so skip this cutscene. Walk out. Trigger the next cutscene. So I wasted a little bit of time on a couple things, but I think this needs a reroute anyway. Once you know what triggers the last couple cutscenes, you should be able to reroute this to make minimal trips to the villa, because you shouldn't need to go to the villa that many times. The parties are a facade. There's no parties. They're the same thing. And I mean, most people, even if you're not a conspiracy theorist, most people know that. But the parties are a facade. They're not real, in the sense that they're not really fighting each other. So that's that's just. What day is it? Friday. Oh no, I want to do this. Yep. I mean that. I mean that at the very top, there's not actually conflicting interests. They're both just trying to control the American people the best way that they can. 644. Oh no. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Time loss. Time. Bye. Shit. Sorry, I'm fucking up really bad here. This could actually be a good time, I think. I mean, like, the most powerful senators and... Okay. Obviously the presidential candidates, like, that goes without saying, they're not actually fighting each other. They're just not. The conflict should be obvious to most people. I'm just gonna be honest. Should be obvious that the conflict between the parties is to engender hatred, animosity, violence, and to waste a ton of time between people who are both being manipulated by the same person or the same group, right? And that is whoever the fuck actually runs our government, which is not the people who we see. And that's just, I mean, this is just some this is basic shit. I don't think of this as even that off the wall. I think that if you, one of the main ways you know that is, what's the one thing that they didn't really debate in the presidential? 25 euros? Yeah, I think it is actually. If you found that on Google, it's probably true. But yeah, they're not. I'm sorry. The one thing that wasn't debated, right, is let's get the fuck out of the Middle East. Did either side say that? No. They've all said we need to fucking kick these people's asses. We need to destroy this shit. We need to level the fucking ground. Scorched earth. So, that's just so Saturday. So today's Sunday. Okay, so I can do this. I think that's euros, or I'm pretty sure pounds, British pounds, use the same symbol as the euro, or they don't. I think that's pounds actually. Maybe they don't. So, that alone should tell you, seems like both of these people just want us to keep killing all of the fucking Arabs. Really weird. They just both do it in different ways. You know, um, for Hillary Clinton or for the liberals, it's, you know, we need to, you know, protect our national security, blah blah blah, and you know, nobody can argue with national security. It doesn't matter how racist you are or racist you're not. You know, oh, national security, fuck, gotta protect my kids, which we're not being protected from anything. And then for Donald Trump, it's radical Islamic terror, which he just, you know, that creates a whole separate debate, which is just a nice addition for them. Oh, cool. Now they're gonna fight over how racist Donald Trump is or isn't. Cool, nice, perfect. All the while, we're still gonna wage the fucking war in the Middle East. We're gonna destroy these bitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. What's today? Monday. Perfect. We getting this, boys. We got this shit. I'm skipping the split because I forgot to split. It was an hour 41 before I gave the silk to Gina before. Seems like way better. Holy shit. Yeah. Well, okay. Let me just point out. We would still have international U.S. dominance even if we weren't destroying motherfuckers in the Middle East. And we're actually not waging war in the Middle East for us anyway. But that's don't even need to go into this. That's the part where people go, okay, you're a racist piece of shit if you say that. So I'm not gonna do it because this is a very wholesome Harvest Moon stream. All right, I'm just wooing the Nihonjin Meido. Oh yeah, Gina, we're getting married, girl. I'm just wifing this girl up. Just gonna retire to Flowerbud Village. Fuck all this shit. Anyway, I gotta wait till noon, so. This is a better run, but it's still. It needs some cleaning up. You know, I obviously made some mistakes here that cost me probably a minute or so. But the routing is really what needs improved. I really think it would be best to map out exactly how much. I mean, I still don't know exactly how much affection she needs, but I have to have surpassed it by now. I'm almost positive I surpassed it, so I should not have a problem. But, you know, if you figure out exactly how much affection she needs, then you only give her gifts on Wednesday and Saturday. And, you know, you have to come up here a few days because you have to give Dia. The best I've worked it down to is like 10 or 11 probably times you have to go in there. Trigger that bitch. I should just split. Hello, did I split? Please. Split. Boom, 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 boom. So what I'll do here is, I know I don't have to give any more gifts to Gina or to Dia. There's no way I have to give more gifts to Dia. If I do, I'm sorry. There's no way. There's no fucking way. Um, so this, if anything, it should only be Gina. So what I'm gonna do, fucking Katie, come on, is this can easily sub 130. I feel like this can easily sub 130 if I planned it better. This should be sub 130. Eventually. So let's just count the days. This will be Tuesday, Wednesday. It's 2 sleeps. What sound? What are you talking about? Is my audio messed up? So I'm not going to talk to her because that's just a waste at this point. Oh, it might be. Yeah, it's a little bit. Since I raised my fucking mic volume, it does that. Sorry, bros. I mean, girl. 3, 4, 5. Just don't foobar me on the fucking on Dia's affection, because this could be a nice. Okay. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll be done in a couple minutes. Wait, shit. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, no. I should be done in. I'm trying to sub 140 this. So I don't know. I shouldn't have to give more gifts to Gina, but I'm doing it just to be safe, because I never actually did get the. I was never able to really figure out with finality what the final requirements are. So this should be done in the next few minutes, though. So this is, wait, what day? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, for now, because I have to go eat. Okay. Fuck yeah, boys. I see, this is, yeah, sub 130 is free. But I might stream a little bit later. I just have to get some food and... It should be 133, maybe, I think? But again, I don't think I needed to give her gifts more after I already did. I probably exceeded it by quite a bit. But not a lot, but a bit, at least. I was having a hell of a time triggering this cutscene in testing. I was trying to be very specific about, you know, how I was raising the affection of the two of them, because the only two that matter are the two on the left. The one on the right there, you have to give like 2 gifts just to trigger the second cutscene. Yeah, I might be on then Skid if I do a degen screen degen stream. But Okay. So that's basically what I was looking for. There we go. I'm gonna move on from this category for now though. I want to route some of the other ones, so I might do a routing stream later on. But this was good. I'm gonna just let the credits play because I like to include it in the video. But this is a fat PB too. I mean, yeah, this can go down quite a bit if you just if you it's really about catching her on Wednesdays and Saturdays, which are the days that she's closest to your farm. Otherwise, she's all the way up at the villa. And then the only problem is that you're going to need to give Dia gifts at least 10 times. Which means you do need to go up to the villa at least that many times because that's really the only place you can find Dia early in the morning. Hey, you know what? Happy to provide YouTube with some... actually, I probably won't upload this to YouTube, but... You know. It captures my stream pretty well, so... €28.9 for 25 pounds. Is that what you mean? That's basically, yeah, basically. I mean, I'm not trying to be like super, you know, like depressing, but you just gotta keep your mind open, and you gotta keep your mind open in a way that's more than people mean when they say have an open mind. Because to most people, an open mind is not an open mind. It's not really open. It's just, you know, open to officially sanctioned beliefs. So, but I'm just playing Harvest Moon here. Just, you know, tune in anytime. Waifus and PBs. So yeah, like I said, probably do a stream later.